Hello everyone and welcome to Nutrient Nirvana. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Gina Baksa, who is a small and medium business coach, a shamanic practitioner, and most importantly for today, a host of Cacao Ceremonies. So welcome to the channel, Gina.
That's right.
How are
Yeah.
you? All right?
Thank you very much, Paul. Really good. Thank you. I'm in sunny Mexico at the moment. So
I was just about to ask you that because you're looking very sun-kissed.
I am. It's about 85 degrees here right now. So I won't rub it in as you're...
It's too late for that. I'm sorry.
Cold evening.
I'm going to postpone the video now on that note. No, not really. Yeah, but it's been it's actually been quite sunny here in just outside of London in the UK for most of the week until today, and it's been absolutely awful. It's been freezing cold, raining all day long, and thoroughly miserable. So if you want to swap places, I'm more than game. So how did you tell us a bit about yourself before we get started? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and how you got involved in cacao, and go for it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been a shamanic practitioner for a number of years. So I work with plant medicine, drumming, and take people on journeys as well, and chanting and breath work. That's alongside my coaching practice. I use lots of different modalities in my coaching practice. And obviously I've had drinking chocolate, but cacao first came across my radar when some friends of mine back in 2013 went to Guatemala and then came back extolling the virtues of this superfood, which they then told me was a great heart opener. It contained lots of minerals, potassium, for example, magnesium as well it has, and was also just a lovely calming experience. And they had experienced it in ceremony, that is in sitting in a circle, sipping the cacao with an intention. So it came across my radar then, and then I started to host the cacao circles, really, where we would get together, we would drink the cacao, we would set an intention, and then people would lie down while I would take them on a guided visualization, either through my voice or music or drumming, which is what you and I experienced just recently. I took you on a similar journey to what my clients would experience. So really, I may be a bit late to the raw cacao party 2013. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Obviously, I can't go into too much personal detail, but it was a revelation what happened with our little ceremony. I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend anyone to contact Gina and give it a go, because it's really helped me out in a lot of ways. So very grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so just if there's any viewers out there that aren't too sure about what cacao actually is, what is it exactly, and how does it differ from something like cocoa powder, for example?
Well, cocoa powder is basically, cocoa comes from the same place. If I just explain what cacao is, cacao, aka coca here, it grows on trees in Central and South America, and it's been used ceremonially for like thousands of years to access intuition, speak to the gods. And it is grown on trees, and they're grown on kind of yellow pods. So the pod will be about that big. And then when you cut it open, inside there's lots of lovely fleshy white stuff that encases the pods themselves. And these pods are like encased in this white sticky fluid, whatever. And they're usually, I don't know, up to about 40 pods. So those pods are then taken, stripped off, and they are roasted, and they are ground down into a paste, and they end up looking like this. Here's one I made earlier, but the cacao, this is what I got in Guatemala from a female ladies only cooperative there. This is what it looks like. So they are sold in blocks like that. And this is higher grade cacao, the kind of cacao that you would use in a ceremony.
Mm.
So this has no sugar in it. It has a little bit of a bitter taste, but this is the cacao paste made up into a block. So you would simply cut a little bit off that, depending how many people are in the group or just yourself. You might want to just mash it up a little so it doesn't have any lumps, or use a rolling pin. This is so soft, it just melts in the pan. Beautiful. And then you add some water, maybe just, get a mug, put some water in, and then gently heat it up. You never boil it. And then just test it just to see if it's okay. And then for drinking, you can add honey, you can add cinnamon. Some people like to add chili to give it a pop. I personally like it just on its own. And the
I'm actually really enjoying mine at the moment.
Good.
Whenever I've used cacao before, I've always drunk it with either raw milk or coconut water. And you suggested that I just use the cacao with warm water, as you've just described. I've added a bit of honey and a bit of cinnamon. I wasn't too sure what to expect. It's actually really nice. So I'm really enjoying it. So
good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would suggest to people only use water and just have it just under boiling. You don't want it boiling away, but just heated nicely so that, like you're doing now, you can sip it. And if we're doing it in a ceremony, but you can do it at home, sip it with intention and see if you can feel. I mean, I'll talk about the benefits, obviously, but it's a beautiful heart opener for one thing, which is why it's used ceremonially and in a group. Not that all your boundaries are down, but you just feel you don't go on a trip. It's not like other plant medicine. There's no DMT. There's nothing. It's just relaxation and a sense of contentment. And on a journey, you can get insights as well from it. Very powerful medicine.
It is a lovely feeling. I'm trying to think of the. I think it's is it a flavonoid or a phytonutrient called
theobromine as well.
Bromine, that's the one.
Theobromine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the nutrient that's responsible for being able to open the heart up, isn't it? As I understand.
Yes, that's what I understand, and it's a mild stimulant. So generally, we say to people, don't eat a few hours beforehand. And if you're thinking about joining a cacao ceremony, maybe just ask for, a smaller cup before you start. If you're susceptible and but you don't really get the high and then the low like you do with caffeine. It's a very smooth experience. And if you're sipping it, it's very gentle. But they use cacao beans, the Aztecs, as currency. And I think it was probably the Spanish, going to the difference between cocoa and cacao. I think the Spanish probably brought it back in the 1500s to Europe. And of course, it can be quite bitter on its own. So they would have started adding sugar. And then gradually, the centuries wore on. People have learned how to make chocolate and then drinking chocolate, but adding lots of sugar. And that's a no-no, really, when you're drinking raw cacao. Yeah.
What about adaptogenic herbs? Can you add adaptogens to cacao? Because I often do. I don't know if I'm doing the wrong thing by doing that, but things like, for example, maca powder or astragalus or ashwagandha. Is that a good idea?
You could, but ashwagandha, that's a beautiful herb. I take that regularly. You could, but I wouldn't, actually.
Okay.
I think I know people are using microdosing and mushrooms with cacao, and that's very, very popular, and I think that would be beautiful. But no, I personally wouldn't mix it. I think just have it straight in its pure form and just add maybe cinnamon, honey, or something, if you want a little of a sweet taste.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about the history of cacao? Because I know you just mentioned that I think it was the Aztecs that used to barter with it, literally. So they obviously held it up in really high esteem, didn't they?
Oh, they did. They did.
So could you talk to us about the history of cacao?
Yeah, well, the cacao itself is really known as the food of the gods in Central and South America. It's held in such high esteem. And they used the cacao ceremonially in the way that some tribes use ayahuasca or wachuma or other drugs, although this doesn't have DMT. But the shaman that worked with them would use it to take them on journeys, to open up the heart, to connect with source or their star families, and to receive guidance and wisdom for next steps. So it's always been a very, very important element of their medicine cabinet, because so as you know, so many plants are medicine. Nature's medicine cabinet is all around us. We don't need pharma, actually. If you live a healthy lifestyle, you don't, quite frankly, now you never want to go near a hospital or your doctor for reasons we know. But yes, I think as they used it, and they use butter as well. So it's a beautiful source of magnesium, I think calcium, potassium, and also I think phosphorus too, from memory. So it's got beautiful properties.
Loads of trace minerals, loads of trace minerals. Yeah, definitely. I think it's got quite a few B vitamins as well, if I remember rightly.
I think so, yes. And it's also, although I'm not sure if the studies are out there, but it's been proven to lower blood pressure, to help with diabetes, reduce heart disease risk, and reduce inflammation as well. So it really is a medicine, and it was until the Europeans bastardized it with lethal sugar.
Crazy. Ridiculous.
But it is. It's very interesting, the journey. But in my experience, what I love about it especially is that it's such a gentle heart opener. So we all have these walls up for various reasons. None of us have had perfect childhoods. There's always a bit of trauma going on somewhere or other. So to be able to feel safely opening to your heart and source, because if our heart's closed, not only are we keeping away the bad stuff, but we are blocking ourselves from receiving, so much love. This is a benevolent universe that wants to support us and give us insights and feed us through the sun or through the wind or the water. So it's imperative that we do whatever we can now to keep our hearts open appropriately.
Just so you know, on this channel, when we refer to the pharmaceutical industry, we take the P off, the first letter off the word.
Very good.
Just for future reference. We're not a fan of those on this channel. So can you talk us through the whole ceremonial process when you're hosting a cacao ceremony? What takes place?
Yeah, okay. So generally, whatever the side of the group, people generally arrive. I always ask them not to have any food for a couple of hours before, because the cacao is working at a very deep level. So you don't want it to have to be going in the stomach with digestion going on. So they arrive, and typically we would sit in a circle. And then I would lead people into a grounding exercise. We do some breathing. So whatever people have been doing outside, an hour before or the day before, I get them to bring themselves to presence and to be in the room and to be in their body, like right here, right now. And I do that with breath work and basically energetically helping them to come back into the body. And then once we've done that, I will have the cacao ready. Sometimes if it's a small group, people might introduce themselves, but I get everyone to set their intention for the session. So that basically means, they could be an intention of guidance for a new job, or should they go traveling or not? Because we have all the answers within us. So they will have come with an intention that they're focusing on. And then I ask everyone just to focus on their heart center, which is the heart. And then to breathe in and out from that center, that heart chakra here, which is very, very important. So they're grounded, they're more relaxed, they're fully present. And then I might do some tarot cards because I do reading, and I really love Osho tarot cards. They're very, very spot on, I think is the word. And so that's another tool for people, because I encourage people to access their intuition with the cacao. So you can seek your own counsel. And then we would sip the cacao in silence together, maybe for about 5 or 10 minutes, no talking, just everyone's with themselves, but they've got the group support there. So it's a lovely container and very connected. And then when everyone's finished the cacao, I mean, some people don't, they might find a mug a bit much, but most people finish it. Then everyone lies down, they're on a yoga mat, hopefully they bought a pillow, they have a little blanket, which probably need in the UK right now, woolly hat, some
duvets at the moment.
Duvets,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, duvet. And then you lie down, make yourself comfortable. And then either I would use music, so some recorded music, or I'll just use my voice and the drum, and I take everyone on a guided visualization and a guided journey. And that basically means taking you from your normal state of awareness into like a dream state where you're fully aware of everything that's going on, but you can access other worlds and visions, and you'll see things. And I'm guiding you anyway.
And I must just interject just very quickly,
Yeah.
because when we did this together, you said, right, we're going to do a little visualization now. And I thought, oh no, I'm rubbish at this. People have asked me before, to do these visualizations, and I try my best. My eyes are shut and I'm trying to focus, and it just doesn't happen. But it did with you. It was vivid, and I met my higher self. He was looking very happy and relaxed, and pleased to see me. And it was a proper experience. It really, really was, and very skillfully guided by yourself. So I'm very grateful for that experience. I really was very grateful for it, and I was in a good mood for days after that. It was brilliant.
Oh, so, you're really welcome.
Yeah, so I highly recommend anyone out there that wants to experience what I did, please get in touch. I'll link all of Gina's details underneath the video.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's also good to, you're proof that it works online as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we weren't in the same room, were we? I mean, I was thousands of miles away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's lovely. I mean, that's exactly, hopefully what people and most people do experience, that they're very relaxed. And because the drum is quite hypnotic, they really go. And then I use my rattle as well. You'll go into that state. So sometimes I take people to meet their inner child, depending on what the group wants. Sometimes it could be higher self. It could be spirit animal that comes back with you, a guide. Or it could be even people who've passed over. Sometimes there's a need for that, where people have lost people and maybe just really seeking to reconnect somehow. Or, soul retrieval. Often we've lost or abandoned aspects of ourselves. So shamanic soul retrieval is bringing those parts back that we've abandoned through trauma or, self-harm or whatever. It could be anything, really.
That's very interesting. I've learned quite a lot about trauma over the last couple of years, actually, because my background is in nutrition and health. And it would seem that some people, particularly if they've suffered with trauma in childhood, they hold on to it. It can actually be a physical injury to the nervous system or the brain, evidently, and it can lead to all sorts of other problems. So it's something that I've been looking into a lot over the last couple of years. And you would suggest that cacao ceremonies can help with?
Definitely, I think cacao can definitely help, because there's no trippy DMT stuff going on. You can take it anywhere and you can just learn to feel. Because, I mean, especially now, we have been, the last 2 years, we've been triggered into continual trauma response by the actions of the people that are supposedly in charge.
And it's ongoing now with World War III as well. It continues.
It does continue, yes. Yeah. So we've got fight, flight, or zoning out, and those are the 3 major trauma responses. And most of us have had developmental childhood trauma. So what we're seeing now, and I'm seeing in clients, is that trauma is being reactivated and triggered again with feelings of helplessness, out of control, can't trust the external authority, all of which is leading us beautifully to go within and not trust anything outside of ourselves. We certainly can't trust the media or the government anymore. So they're playing their part beautifully. Anyone else that's expecting to be looked after and daddy will help us, well, you got a big wake-up call. Now's the time to go within.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that could be another video actually we could focus on.
That'd be great. Yeah, let's do
yeah.
that sometime.
Something else I've been looking into recently as well is shadow work. Have you come across that before? Do you know much about shadow work?
Yes, I mean, shadow work, again, that's often parts of ourselves that we've abandoned. And shadow work comes out of, often, again, so much of it is around childhood trauma. It could be from abuse, shame, guilt, all those things that were kind of overlays on us. And so we reject those parts of ourselves. And when we meet people or have relationships with people that mirror those parts that we've abandoned, we will either reject them or create drama or whatever, or push them away. Whereas in fact, those people have come to us showing us what we've abandoned in ourselves. It's never really about the other person. It's about us. So shadow work is tough, but it's absolutely essential.
That's a bit like being triggered, isn't it, by somebody, and you become activated. And it's actually, as somebody was trying to explain to me the other day, it's actually the triggering is actually revealing something in yourself, within yourself, that you haven't dealt with before.
Completely.
Which I found a real eye opener. And I think over the last couple of years, if anyone's been on social media over the last couple of years, triggering is something that happens very frequently. So, yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking into and starting to investigate. And I'm seeing more and more and more now that trauma plays such a big role in this world, individually and collectively, I think, as well. There's collective trauma. So it's something that we all need to be dealing with, definitely. And particularly, as you said, childhood trauma. For example, I don't think that everyone or every child is kind of designed for going to school. I really don't. You know, that's become very clear to me now. And I read today, funnily enough, that since the beginning of 2020, over 100,000 children in the UK are now homeschooled.
Oh, fantastic.
I know.
Yeah. That's such great news, because
It's
you've got these very
fantastic.
evolved souls
I mean,
going into a Victorian system.
yeah,
And then you've got the medical mafia creating a disease called, what is it? ADHD.
ADHD, yeah.
ADHD, which is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Unless they're just having a lot of sugar and E numbers, well, then that's different. But they're bored, basically.
That's a big subject. It's a very, very big subject.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's no actual physical trace of ADHD or I think
it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
Yeah,
they've created it to market.
I'll have to be careful what I say here, but I think some people put it down to damage. And I've read a lot recently about how autistic children may have been born that way because they've inherited their pregnant mother's compromised gut flora. Everything stems from the gut. So anything, all the toxins that we ingest, or the chemicals in processed foods, the industrial chemicals in personal care products, they all end up somehow they end up into our bloodstream, end up in the brain through the bloodstream. And I suppose on top of that, if a baby up to the age of 18 months is getting something like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 different jibby jabbies, that's just kind of pushing them over the edge. So that's how I see it. That makes sense to me.
Well,
Is
that's
that,
compromising their immune system immediately, which
yeah,
is why it's to be avoided at all costs.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think definitely we inherit a lot. There's also ancestral stuff. It's a whole other topic. In ancestral illnesses, there's also the belief system that if your auntie or your mother or your grandmother died of cancer, you will, which is ridiculous.
Which is the
That's
opposite of the biology of belief and epigenetics, isn't it? And
exactly,
yeah,
that is simply not true. It's just the fear that goes, they did, so I'm going to get it. Well, no, it's so much of up here.
and
What
even
we
if you
think we
thought that,
create.
yeah, even if you thought that you were susceptible to a certain illness or disease, if you research it, you'll find out that there are certain nutrients that you can be taking
Yes,
in on a daily basis to help prevent that from ever happening. So, yeah, it is very kind of defeatist kind of attitude, isn't it?
I think it is, but I think the problem is so much. There's very little, as we were saying earlier. There's very little nutrition in supermarkets. There's so much toxicity in our soil and our seeds deliberately. There's toxicity from the air that's being dumped down on us. So unless you're wealthy enough to be able to move out of a city and you've got land and you've got time and energy and money to grow your own, and you know, we are nutritionally deficient. And then, of course, you've got the jib jabs from birth that compromise our immune system. So it's all very cleverly designed to make us sick. And then, of course, we're invited to take those things that help the illness that was created by those very organizations in the first place.
So, how long have you been? How long have you been awake to all that kind of information you've just?
I would say I've always been awake since I was a child. I've always been very psychic, very intuitive. I was always downloading things and I always felt very different. And
What? Sorry, when you say downloading things, what do you mean by that?
I would just get
clarify that.
information. So I would get things coming through to me. So I was very much in touch with other planets and other beings, whether they were fairy beings or mermaids or all of that when I was a child. And I can remember, I think the tipping point was in my late teens, early 20s. I started reading a lot. And then in my sort of later 20s, I remember going to listen to David Icke when he was talking to about 4 pensioners in village halls.
I think he says you could fit his audience into a phone box when he first started out.
Yeah,
for a few years.
yeah, there was hardly anyone there. It was awesome. So I started listening to people like him and then doing my own research on, the pyramids of Mars and a lot of guys that had written, mainly men at that time, that had written a lot of stuff. Atlantis, Lemuria, Tartaria, well, there wasn't much about that at that time. Practically all of our history that we've been told is a lie.
Certainly, yeah, our ancient history is a complete and utter void mystery to us. We really don't understand where we've come from. We're a species with amnesia, as I think Michael Tazarian says. You mentioned the word Tartaria. That's a very interesting subject at the moment. I've been looking into that on and off for about 5 years now. I still can't make my mind up on it. There are certain things, because it's such a big subject. Sorry, I realise we're digressing from cacao.
We've gone off cacao.
Yeah. So the Tartarians love their cacao, and to cut a long story short, I'm still on the fence. I hear some people say that it's a Marxist agenda to rewrite our history and disconnect ourselves from our history even more. So the Marxists are at play at the moment. Who knows?
They certainly are. Or that could be disinformation. I think the body of evidence speaks for itself when you see a lot of these beautiful buildings that bricked up. Why would you brick them up? What is it that you don't want? Why have the spire on cathedrals, cathode, cathedral, inspire, spire, they're all generators in the same way. Well, go to Egypt as well. The Great Pyramid is not a burial chamber.
No.
It was a generator. The Egyptians used water And anyway, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, I
But
was going to be going on that, you see, because I used to think that up until recently, and I interviewed a guy on here called Ralph Ellis, and he said there's no way. He said it was a temple. He agrees it wasn't a burial chamber, but he says that it wasn't a power plant, I think it's called, because the shafts could never have had anything going through them, that they were blocked to a certain extent, and he wasn't convinced at all by that, so who knows? But it definitely wasn't a burial. It may have been a burial chamber at one point in its history, but it wasn't designed for that reason. I think
it wasn't.
agree on that.
No. And I don't know. I mean, originally they were painted white, and there would have been a gold capstone on the front, on the top.
I heard that one was white, one was red, and one was blue. Did I?
I don't know about that. I know
Right.
there was a black pyramid, but I mean, I know that on the Giza plateau they were painted white, as far as I know. So, but to go back to Tartaria, and so many of those buildings that were built for a reason and destroyed, they're all over the world. You know, revolving pillars and cities laid out like motherboards, basically, on a computer. So
it is such a massive lie if it's true. It's so big. It's so hard to comprehend. And plus, you've also... Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you know, Tesla and the tower, which will be bringing back now. You know, Edison was just put in by deep state to get rid of him because he wanted to give everyone free energy. So many of those patents, my belief is that they will arise again. I mean, Trump's uncle was one of the main guys that went to see Tesla.
Was it John Trump, I think?
Yeah, I think his name was John Trump. Yeah. So we're going to see some very interesting old technologies, you know, resurfacing and coming through again. So although it looks very bleak right now, there's a hell of a lot of stuff, really good stuff going on behind the scenes. Nasara Jasara. Anyway, that's another subject.
And at the same time, we should be, all of us should be trying to co-create the new earth, the new world that we want to see, you know, rather than try and fix the old world, which is, for want of a better word, excuse me, fucked, really.
It is fucked.
We need to be building the new earth, and that's very much what this channel's about and what my business is about. So,
fantastic.
And what you're about as well, so it's all good. Shall we just go back to cacao before we finish up today?
Yeah, let's do that, yes.
So a customer asked me about 2 or 3 years ago, is your cacao ceremonial, Paul? And I'd heard of it, but I wasn't too sure. So I looked into it and I got lots of conflicting information about it. Nothing was very clear. So obviously we've had a cacao ceremony and you've guided me through that ceremony and it was absolutely wonderful. But what is ceremonial cacao in terms of if you wanted to purchase ceremonial cacao? What's the process going on there?
Well, I think what she probably meant was, is it ceremonial grade cacao?
Right, okay.
Because you can't just get ceremonial cacao. She probably meant, is it ceremonial grade?
Cacao,
and maybe she just heard someone say that.
Yeah.
And she probably didn't really know what that meant. So maybe her question, I mean, I'm not sure what she meant really, but I would say she was asking you, is it good quality? Is it ceremonial grade quality, or is it being mixed with a lot of other rubbish? You know, and I think you can just tell, like I can just tell by feeling this and looking at it, and I saw it being prepared, that it's beautiful, top quality, because it's not just the ingredients and how the beans have been roasted, but it's also the preparation. Like I saw the women there, and such love goes into the preparation. So again, it's about intuitively maybe going to your health food shop and just putting a hand up next to it. How does that feel, that packet of a cacao? And intuitively, you'll know if it's good quality or not. And paying for the most expensive isn't always the best either. You know, you might find something that's good quality, but I would just, does it resonate with you? Do you feel you're going to be able to have a deep, heart-opening experience with it? Or if you just want, you know, cup of cacao in the evening with a book, just, just use your intuition. That's what I would say to people. What is it resonating with you? Does it feel good to you? And then that's the answer, really.
I think that's something that we all need to be employing more, is our intuition in the modern world at the moment.
Definitely.
We're surrounded by science, technology, all these
Yes.
different things and gadgets that tell us what to do and when to do it and all the rest of it. And we don't really employ a lot of intuition anymore. And if we do, it's intuition isn't evidence based, is it? So some people would kind of frown upon intuition, but I think I've been developing my intuition over the last few years now, and it's usually right. So
Yes.
it might not be female
Yeah.
intuition, but it's we've all got it. It's all in
Yeah.
there. So
We have all got it. And the way you can tell, I mean, I teach my clients as well, my coaching clients and my mentoring clients, how to access their intuition and take action on it. And one way of knowing if it's an intuitive hit, if you've got a decision to make and you figure out the answer intuitively, it will normally come to you. It will land. It's not something you're like, oh, struggle. That's using your mind, which will only use the past to reference which steps you should take in the present. Useless. And there'll be, if you're using your mind or your egoic orientation, then there'll be lots of confusion, lots of answers. In my experience, and probably yours, when you have an intuitive answer of like, oh, shall I go right or left this morning out of my house? That's an easy one. You don't think, you would just be told. And there's only ever one answer with intuition. And it's never wrong. It's like, trust your body as well. How does your body feel? Intuitively, it always tells you the truth. Like when you meet someone and you're feeling uncomfortable, the mind can say, oh, it's okay, hang around. Or a relationship that's gone tits up. Oh, stay, he's good, she's good, da, da, da. The body is like calling a cab, get your taxi and go.
I had a very interesting experience about 3 or 4 months ago with my intuition. I was in Glastonbury, and I was with my wife, and I'd never been to the tour before, never seen the tour. So we got to. Have you ever been to the tour before in Glastonbury?
Yes, quite a few times. I
Oh,
love
brilliant.
it there.
Yeah. So this was my first time, and we went through this gate, and you could see it, and we got to kind of like the foot of the tour. And for some reason, I just did a detour because you had the path right in front of you. They've an inbuilt path that leads all the way up to the tower at the top and the plateau.
Yes.
But for some reason, I was just pulled to walk away from the path and to follow like the kind of the trenches, like and to walk around it like a maze.
Like a
Which
maze,
is what I did, and it was fantastic. My wife wasn't best pleased, but there we go. But I met her at the top. But
Good.
But the second time I did it, I walked up the path, and for the first time in my life, I got vertigo because it's really high up the tour. It's really, you don't appreciate it until you actually visit the place. Really high up, and I got about halfway up there, and I started feeling really dizzy, and I couldn't look up at the top of the tower anymore. So my intuition clearly knew best on that front.
Oh, totally. And you went up the old way.
Yes. But I found that out afterwards. I swear to God, I didn't know about that. I only found out about that afterwards. So that was a really interesting experience.
Yeah, it is. You followed your intuition and it was calling you to go up in that spiral. Because for me, there's a lot of dragon energy there that comes up. So it's kind of spiraling up and up. And then it's an amazing...
It's an amazing place, Glastonbury. I'm going back in 2 weeks. I can't wait because there's so many different places to explore. But I found it really interesting from the point of there's kind of like two different energies there. It's like a really nice light energy with like lots of magic going on and stuff. And there's also a bit of dark stuff going on as well.
A lot of dark stuff.
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt about the place when I was there, which kind of pulled me in even more. It's this really, really interesting place.
Yes, I think whether there's, historically pilgrimage sites and places with a lot of light or history will always attract both polarities, and it's just good to be aware that they exist.
Wow.
And it also attracts people whose focus might be, on one or the other. And it's just about using discernment and intuition. And if you feel uncomfortable, you just use your feet.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Okay, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. It's
Thank
been
you, Paul. Me
really,
too.
really interesting. You're one of those people that you can just talk about so many different subjects, and they're all very interesting to me. So I hope that we can do
Likewise.
this in the near future.
Definitely, I'd love to.
Yeah,
There's a lot to talk about.
there is.
Yes.
I'm holding it back at the moment because I
Yeah.
really want to talk about my experiences as a small child with little people and
Oh, yes.
ghosts and stuff like that. So I've never really talked about it much before, so I thought I might as well just talk about it on YouTube, eh? So and just
Definitely.
get it out there, you
Definitely.
know, because
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
it's not something I'm embarrassed about in any way. But I
No.
look back on those experiences now, and obviously I'm a lot older. I'm 46 now, so I look back on that and think, did I dream it? But there's no way. There's just no way. I know what happened
No.
was real. So
Oh, no, they're
we can
real.
do a little video on that in the future as well, and about your experiences as a child, because
Oh, yeah.
they sounded really, really, really interesting. So
There's lots of them, and I still see them.
I'll
You
do
know,
you. That's really
little
annoying
people
because
and
I don't.
ghosts. Yeah.
Unless I'm somewhere like Avebury. If I'm in Avebury, I will see
Oh,
things every time, like orbs and all sorts of different stuff. And
Avebury's amazing. That's where I
mm.
saw a ghost in the pub there at Avebury.
Oh,
It's
it's
the
one of the
Red
most
Lion.
haunted pubs. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she came into my bedroom, that ghost, but that's for another time.
Did you sleep in the Red Lion? Because you can't
Yeah.
anymore. Wow, they
Oh,
closed that. They
really?
closed. Well, the pub's still there and the restaurant's still there, but
Yeah.
you can't board there anymore.
Oh,
I
what a
don't know whether that's
shame.
because people got so spooked out with it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. It was
last
many
time
years
round,
ago. It was about
yeah.
15, 20 years ago. But yeah, I saw her, Florrie.
Wow,
Florence.
she died down the well, didn't she? Somebody threw her down the well, I think, if
Yeah,
I
the
remember rightly.
story goes that she had an affair with a guy when her husband was away at war or something, and he was so enraged that he murdered her and threw her down the well.
Hmm.
But yes, I'll tell you more about that in another thing.
Yes.
The thing was, I didn't know the story until I had this interaction with her, which
Oh,
I'll
wow.
share with you another time. And then,
Mm.
anyway, I won't ruin the story. I'll tell you about it another time.
Brilliant. I look forward to
Yeah.
that. Where can the
Yes.
viewers find out more about you,
Oh,
contact you, and hello?
hello. Sorry
You're back. Good.
about
Yeah.
that.
I haven't finished yet. Yeah. Where can
Sorry.
my viewers contact you? And yeah,
Great. Okay. Well, they can email me at gina@ginabaksa.com. And my website, which is just about being finished, it will be up in probably 10 days, 2 weeks, is www.ginabaksa.com. So that's GINABAKSA.com.
wonderful. I'll link all that in the show notes underneath that
Brilliant.
video. I really look forward to talking with you again, Gina. It's been really, really interesting.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Thank you. We hope you've
Thanks,
enjoyed
Paul.
it. Please like,
Ah,
share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And we'll be back soon. Thank you, Gina.
yeah. Great. Lovely. It's a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.